So I was Googling this shit and came across a very interesting fact. The fact was that the most used word of last year was fuck. It's crazy, right? It's hard to believe. I know I can't believe it because I made it up. But see how you should question labels like fact? But too often we accept what's given, equate listening with learning, and I found myself listening to the same woman who labeled me an alcoholic and a womanizer, asking me to lead her in grace. My mother. But as a minister of 10 plus years, I know it was only so she could listen to see if the conversation between me and God resembled the dialect of strangers, and how could I say no? My mother is as honest as truth, as beautiful as a newborn faith, and so I accepted her proposal, and I said grace. And after hearing how I talk to God naturally, she wanted to know how I talk to you, his people. She asked me, did I curse in my poetry? And I replied, fuck yes, shit yeah, in my mind. But what I really had said was, yes, Mom. And she asked me why. And I told her, before we are born, our hearts start beating, a squeeze and a release. This is life's way of teaching us we can only hold on to so much before we have to let it go. We are born ready to learn everything, but knowing how to cry out, to let go. The older we get, the harder it is to let things go. So we learn how to use our words. And what better words to spell out our pain than those already labeled as cursed? And she replied saying that the only thing you can learn from hearing someone cry out in pain is what living in pain sounds like. Go backwards to the origin of the pain. Because if you learn to live with pain long enough, eventually you're gonna die from it. Okay, so to make my mom happy, I went to the origin of curse words. From the root word profanity, which comes from the Latin word profanos, which means outside the temple. So curse words loosely translates to words outside her temple of God. But my mother said backwards, so God of temple works outside of words. I know it sounds strange, right? But in the beginning was the word, right? And that word was with God, no backwards. God with was word. Being with God is the word. We've been living backwards. Like how people go to the temple to find Jesus when Jesus wasn't in the temple when he found people. He found them and gave them a word of God, a miracle. Jesus performed 37 miracles, all words from God's, but all outside the temple. How can a miracle exist under the same label as cursed words? No, backwards. Words as labels, curse. Labels like nigga, dyke, a faggot, an alcoholic. These words are not who we are. We are all miracles no matter how cursed our situations look. When people label you, they were only picking labels on the outside. So remember, you are made in God's image. So image in God made you are.